Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're so glad that you're in our audience today, whether you're joining us live or if you're watching the podcast later on, or if you are listening to us on audio, or if you are listening to us on WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta. We're so happy you decided to be in the audience.
That's right.
And Joe Conjal says, good evening, Rob and Joan. Good evening,
Hi, Joe.
Rob and Joan. Yes. Hi, Joe.
He's got his little umbrella because he's up there in Charlotte and it's raining.
Yeah. Is it bad? Marjorie Deering says, what great timing. I just walked through the door. Yay.
Whoa.
Thanks, Marjorie.
That sounds supernatural. You walk through the door.
Oh, you know what? I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I want to remind everybody every Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, you can catch our shows on WDJYFM.com on the computer or 99.1 FM in Atlanta over the radio. Saturdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S. Episode Rewind, of course, every Saturday. And this coming episode Rewind this Saturday is going to be a sci-fi author from the UK, David Clegg, a repeat of his show. And WDJY tomorrow night is Noah Asher, Overcoming the Overwhelming. That was a pretty good episode there as well. Meet the Author next week is the next Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles update. It's part 3, and it's with Brakefield and Berkey and Richard Schwint.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's right. And
George Dismuke says, watching you eating a chicken pot pie, drinking milk, Oreo cookies for dessert.
Chicken pot pie, that sounds good. Well, so does the Oreo cookies for dessert. Yummy.
Joe says, it was pouring earlier, not so much now, at least where I'm at. Well, that's good.
That's good.
And then Marjorie said, yay, I hear that's a great book, LOL. That's because Marjorie sent me this book, The Horror Within.
Yeah. Thank you, Marjorie.
Marjorie Swift-Deering.
Okay. Speaking of books, new books coming out. The one just released here a little while ago. Joe Conjal's book, Catch a Tiger by the Toe. That was book 26 in the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles.
And I'm reading that right now.
Joan is reading it right now.
And I'm enjoying it, Joe, very much.
And I will get you, and I still promise, I will get you your review for Second Chances, hopefully tomorrow. And book 27 is on pre-order right now, releasing August 20th by Brakefield and Berkey. That's The Ransom Enigma. So you can get that, I believe, for 99 cents.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, I'm not sure if yours is still 99, but I think it is. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway.
I don't think ours is.
No, not. But there is a sale. There is a sale coming up, though.
Yeah, and this
Another
month.
week. Yeah.
Yep. In a week, all our books will be on sale.
I think it's on the 20th.
Everybody in the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles. I mean.
Okay.
That's Yay, Joan. Thanks, Rob. Still 99
Yeah,
cents.
99 cents.
Yeah, I really do. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And plus, I had read about, well, you know how it goes in this crime series, and I had just finished reading about Joyce and her son in Brakefield and Berkey's last season's book. So it was fun for me. That's so fun to see the characters,
It is.
in different books. It's really fun. Anyway, let's bring Steve on and talk
Yeah.
about his books. He has great books.
Not new to our stage
No.
is author Steve Altier.
Hi, Steve.
Welcome aboard.
Hey, Joan. Thank you guys for having me on the show, and thank everybody who's tuning in tonight. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, we do too. Yeah, Steve we've done book signings together, and then we all went to Tampa Bay Scream Fest. He and his wife were there, and some other authors that we know were there. But Steve and his wife are going to go on a ghost hunt with us. They're going to go to
in November
to May Stringer House, which
always is fun.
Is always fun. It's always active, so we're all looking forward to that. Not the first time our team has gone there, but it'll be the first time you've gone there. So
yes, and I just can't wait. Let's fast forward a little bit and get to November.
Yeah, and the neat thing is that Steve writes about ghosts. So, how much fun is that going to be? I bring up? Go ahead.
It's going to be great for me to actually go out and experience, a ghost hunt, an official ghost hunt. And help my writing even that much more. So I'm excited.
Yeah. It is. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And writing about it is fun too. Is there a reason why you chose to write about ghosts?
It goes back to my childhood. So in 1969, my parents bought the Dam Keeper's house. On the other side of the road from us was an old abandoned axe factory and a dam, which a lot of that was destroyed in an earlier flood in the 60s. But that was my playground as a kid. So I mean, growing up in the 70s, with that kind of, Mom always said, "Stay out of the old factory," which meant I had to go inside. I mean, we had to go check it out.
Not only that, but you said it's an axe factory.
Yes, it is.
Where they made axes.
Yes,
where axe murderers
from Pittsburgh. They would chop them. They would get the lumber from the woods. They would float them down on the river in the dam, down to the axe factory, and they would make axes, tools, hatchets.
Oh my gosh!
So you got a
not at all a scary place for little kids to be running around in unsupervised. Not dangerous.
Not at all. Not at all.
Joe Conja goes, an axe factory. There's some great story possibilities there. Well, I do think he took advantage of that.
I did.
Yeah. Let me bring up your first book here. Well, not your first book, but here we go. The Ghost Hunter. This is a side story. This isn't the main story, right?
Correct. The Ghost Hunter is set in the late 1960s. Just basically about a 16-year-old prodigy child who's facing his worst fears. He's going to college. And when he gets to college, he wants to change his life forever. He wants to do something different. He wants to have friends. He doesn't want to repeat of what happened in high school, where everyone picked on him and made fun of him because of his age, because of his name. The character's name is Gerald Dupickle.
Oh,
well, yeah.
You see,
I can see where that would be.
Why would kids make fun of somebody named Dupickle?
So that's a real dilly.
College, one of his first days there, he sees these kids wearing these black shirts, and he's like, "Oh gosh, they've got to be the campus bullies." Well, he runs and he hides in the library, where he has a ghostly encounter, and it's the boys who wear black who come to his rescue because they're ghost hunters.
Oh.
I quickly realized that Gerald has a gift that draws the spirit world out. So
Oh, then
he
he's going to be
with his friendships.
they're going to like having him along. I mean, if he draws the spirits out.
But
Tom Nally says, LOL, a real dilly of a name. And Joe Conjol says, Dilly, great dad joke, Rob, LOL.
yeah, funny story on how I came up with Gerald Dupickle. So my wife and I, we were sitting at a red light one day, waiting for the light to turn green, and this truck pulls up beside me, and there's a big jar of pickles on the side of this truck, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, pickles, Dupickle, Gerald Dupickle. I look at my wife, she looks at me like I've married a lunatic, I was losing his mind. He's up here, he's looking at a truck talking about pickles, and I was just like, I had to write a story about Gerald Dupickle. I pulled my little notepad out and started taking notes. And
while you were driving?
No, I was a passenger.
Oh,
she was driving.
His wife was driving.
Good.
So, yeah. But no, and a couple of days later, we went bowling, and there was three boys that came up and were bowling on the lane next to us. And the one guy, he come and they start putting their names up there and they show up on that overhead screen. And the one kid's name's Donnie, and then there's Sam, and I'm like, Donnie the Demon Slayer. I write that down, and then I'm like, Sam the Sniper, and I just some of these, and these are all characters in that story. My mind was just working overtime, and I had to write it. But it's a side story to the Lizardville Ghost Stories.
Which
it's all set in the same part of the country.
The first one of that is, which one is the Lizardville first one?
Camping trip. Yes.
Got it. The camping trip.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. It says right on it. Lizardville Ghost Stories, book 1.
Yeah, that is the main series.
Okay.
The Lizardville Ghost Stories, book 1 is the camping trip. Book 2 is Jimmy's Curse. And that will be followed up by Return to Lizardville, which will be book 3 in the trilogy and the final chapter of that series. That will release in early 2025. It's already done and at the publisher. I'm just waiting for them to do all their magic to it.
Okay, so first the camping trip, then Jimmy's Curse. And now these are not standalone books. You really need to read them in order to follow the storyline.
Yes. The Lizardville side stories are standalone stories that can be read by themselves in any order. But they, like I said, they're set in the same part of the country. They have a little bit of relevance to the main stories, but they, like I said, they can be read alone.
Yeah.
Standalone story.
Joe Conjol says the covers are great. Who does them for you?
They are done by the publisher, so I don't. I am published with Four Horsemen Publications, and I love working with these guys. They're great. I do have some say. I kind of write up what I'm looking for in a cover, and then the artist comes back with a couple drafts, and we kind of hash it out a little bit, and we come up. This is what we have agreed upon. But they're really great, and I love what they're doing.
Yeah, they do I know I've seen your books. They do the hardcover with the dust cover on it. It's really nice. Correct. Nicely done. Yeah, they're beautiful, actually.
I love it. Dust cover off, the pictures are still on the covers.
Yep.
It's imprinted into it. So it's really, and smooth. It's like a velvety type finish. I mean, a vellum. I'm not sure exactly how to describe it, but it's great.
Yeah.
You get a lot of compliments.
It's the same cover. The dust cover is the same cover as the hardcover. It's really nice. It's not like a red book with a dust cover that has all the pictures on it. The hardcover has the pictures on it.
Yep.
You don't see that often.
No, I really haven't seen it anywhere except for what my publisher's been doing. So that would be that. I hope they continue to do that.
Yeah.
So you find that's a good selling point when you're at the different book shows and so on?
Actually, it is because you'd be surprised how many people look at that and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh!" When you show them the price difference and you show them the cover and you remove the jacket, they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that." Where you
Yeah.
actually have the artwork put to the covers, and it's just people. You say, "So, I mean, if you wanted a paperback, that's fine. I have paperback or hardcover," and they're like, "No, I want the hardcovers." I'm surprised how many people do that.
That's really
But I
cool.
mean, that
Yeah.
would be
It's nice to have the additional thing to work with to engage
oh
the customer, right?
yeah. I mean, the Four Horsemen Publications does everything in paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobooks. And I love the voice of Chaz Mandala. He does all of the ghost stories for me, well, for the publisher. And they sent me some audition tapes. I just fell in love with the way he tells a story. It's just fantastic. So, and if you get into that series and you start, if you love audiobooks and you start, with book one, it's going to be the same voice the whole way through the entire series. He's doing all of them.
What's really nice is that you also have some children's stories for younger children, not little children, but younger than would be reading The Ghost Hunter. And those are all in audio. And I like that because I know that our two youngest grandchildren love to listen to audiobooks. They love it. That's how they go to sleep at night.
Oh wow, that's
Listening to books.
fantastic.
Hmm. So these are all available too in audiobook. Yeah.
Yes.
We Can't Move at
Yeah. There was.
Christmas.
Yep.
Adventures in Italy.
This one actually releases next Monday. Adventures in Italy
Adventures in
releases
Italy.
August 20th.
Oh,
Yes.
all right.
Okay, so that's brand new.
All right. So Over the Falls was the second one after Christmas, or which one came first?
Actually, they've retitled, they've numbered them for me, so they're going with Over the Falls as the first book.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
they've got me
whatever.
confused.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute. That's not, wait a minute. Well, and you have one other that we didn't get the JPEG for, so yeah.
Yeah, the
Blast
blast off. I don't know if you can see that. I mean, yeah, there
Yeah.
it is. It's better view of it. Blast
Okay.
off. But and it was a funny story. I started writing. These are middle grade chapter books, great for the 6 to 10-year-old group. When I was a kid, I was always intimidated. You graduate from picture books and they hand you these large novels to read, and I'm like, as a kid, some kids get intimidated with that. So I wanted to write something that was only like 100 pages, about 20,000 words that a child could feel like they could accomplish, and it was a good, wholesome story. And that's what I've set out to do with these books, and it's really doing well. But I was at a Barnes and Noble book signing with the Blast Off book, and I had a couple of teenage boys come up, and they were pretty harsh to me. They're like, "Dude, this stuff's like baby stuff. What do you got for us?" It was the same week that I had a guy from back home. We were talking on the phone, and he's like, "How many people can say they grew up in Lizardville?" Because I grew up on Lizardville Road, which inspired the name for the Lizardville Ghost Stories. It was at that point is when I realized I had to write, not just some middle grade books, but some young adult, new adult books. And they're basically from 12 on up, but 12 to 30 range is what they're classified as, from young adult to new adult. But they're just good adventure stories. If you like a good spine tingling, edge of your seat suspense story, I think you're going to love the Lizardville Ghost Stories.
Yeah. And then the side stories also same. They're the same audience, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's go to book one, The Camping Trip, and maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Time for a break.
Oh, it's time for the break. I'm sorry.
We'll do this first, and
Yeah.
then we'll come back. So
I wasn't watching the clock.
There you go. Somebody's got to do it.
I was interested in what we were talking about.
There you go. Okay, so we're going to take a couple minutes for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Don't go away, folks. Got a lot more to talk about.
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small coal mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than three-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, the Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
And we're back. Yes. So I had just asked you to give us a little bit of an idea of what the camping trip is about.
So the camping trip takes place in 1970. Group of young guys go out along the banks of Big Fishing Creek where there's an old abandoned axe factory. And the oldest guy, he wants to scare some of the young kids sitting around the campfire that night. So he tells everybody the legends of the axe factory murders, and that wakes up the spirit world. And that's when the chaos begins.
Wow, that's really cool. That's awesome.
That is cool.
And then the next one is Jimmy's Curse.
Yeah, it's a continuation. The boys are doing a lot of research, trying to figure out how do we get these ghosts back where they belong. And it's just a back and forth struggle, a lot of, edge of your seat type of suspense written throughout the story.
Awesome. So then that brings us to The Ghost Hunter.
Correct. Yeah, and we've already talked a little bit about The Ghost Hunter with the Gerald Dupickle story.
Yeah. And how he thought the kids in college were bullies, but they actually were ghost hunters, and he's attracting spirits. So he's now the most popular guy in that group.
Absolutely.
Now, then the next one in that series will be out in October, did you say?
October 1st will be the release of Old Man Smithers.
Okay. And that's the second in the Lizardville side stories.
Correct.
And is that a continuation of the Ghost Hunter, or is this completely standalone and different?
Standalone story. So we first meet Old Man Smithers in the camping trip.
Okay.
He is just a crotchety old man. He doesn't want these kids on his property. He lives alone pretty much out in the woods, and he just wants to be left alone. And these kids, they like to go rafting and stuff down the river, and he lives right on the rivers, on the water's edge. So every time they're going by, he's just chasing them, and he's like, "Get off my property!" And that's where we first meet him. And the kids are like terrified of him, and he doesn't like the kids. And when that book released, I had so many people emailing me, asking me, what is wrong with this Old Man Smithers guy? I mean, what's his story? Well, it continues when we get to Jimmy's Curse. Jimmy's Curse is set in 1976. So in there, we again meet Old Man Smithers, and him and his cousin or best friend, Tom, they end up helping the kids a little bit with their ghost adventures and trying to help them get the spirits back where they belong. And again, those two stories, kind of led me into, I want to tell Old Man Smithers' story. So Old Man Smithers actually begins in 1961, and it concludes in 1976. It runs a 15-year span. Every chapter is written more like a diary, where I talk about what day of the year, what day it is, what month it is, and what year it is. And then I explain the events of what are happening in his life at that time. So it really has a neat tie-in to the Lizardville Ghost Stories. It's a different perspective. So in the Lizardville Ghost Stories, you see the kids' perspective and what they're seeing and what's going on. In his story, it's just a standalone story, but would make a little more sense if you read the ghost stories first. It's his perspective on what was going on and why he didn't like the kids, and why he was irritated with the children.
Yeah, it's his backstory.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you want to read a little bit from Old Man Smithers?
Sure, I'd love to. Let me get a light on here and throw on the right glasses for that. Yes, it's hard getting older and having to change glasses all the time. So we'll start right off with chapter 1. It's Sunday, October 15th, 1961. The lights blinded me as I crested the top of the hill. I panicked. "Bob!" April screamed. Her screams pierced my eardrums. My son wailed in the back seat. I pressed my foot to the brake pedal and held it as hard as I could. Tires squealed as I white-knuckled the steering wheel to the right, trying to avoid the oncoming car. Everything slowed, and my life flashed before my eyes. The steering wheel pushed the air out of my lungs. I glanced to the right, watching my wife fly forward, the crunching sounds of her hitting the metal dashboard of our 1961 Dodge Dart sent chills down my spine. Glass and metal flew everywhere. Everything closed in around me. Screams turned to cries, then sobs, before fading to silence. My nose twitched. I caught a whiff of something horrible. Wait. No, it couldn't be. Panic set in. I squirmed, yet I couldn't move. It was gas. The scent was strong. I needed to get out of here. I blinked. How long had I been out? My vision was stained. Everything was red. Why was it red? I was confused and in agony. Pain seared throughout my body. I raised my right hand slightly to wipe the debris from my eye. My finger bled again. A new cut. I must have a piece of glass embedded in my eyelid. I was confused. I tried to move my head to the right, but metal debris was scattered and restricted my movement. April. Where was April? I needed to see her blonde hair. I couldn't move. My heart raced. Something held me in place. My stomach whirled. I just wanted to throw up. The smell was too strong. April, I shouted, but I heard nothing. Was I dreaming? Did I see lights? I remember the lights. They were coming right at me as I crested the top of the hill. I turned the steering wheel. I know I turned. Or did I turn? Did I turn too late? Water flowed from my eyes and burned when it mixed with the cuts on my face. What had I done? April, I screamed. Silence, nothing but silence. Was I yelling? Was I even talking? Was this all happening in my head? Could I talk? I moved my lips, I said hello, but I heard nothing. I couldn't move. I tried to push with my feet, but my legs were pinned. I wiggled my toes. I could feel that. I smiled, and then I noticed the gift wrap. Birthday wrapping, to be exact. It was my son's birthday. Bobby, Bobby, I screamed. Bobby Jr. I coughed, sobbed, choked on my saliva, and sobbed some more. Why was no one responding to me? Bobby, April, is anyone there? I couldn't hear myself. My body hurt all over. I was dazed, confused. My mind whirled. Was I alive? Was this the afterlife that everyone was talking about in church? Is that all I remember from church? Was I a horrible person, so bad that I had been sentenced to an eternity in a pile of wrecked metal? I needed to know more. I needed to do more, be more sociable, treat people better. Please give me another chance. I heard my mind scream as I faded. Then I heard a voice. I thought I heard a voice. It was a man's voice. It grew louder. A bright light shone in my face. I sobbed. Not again, not another car. My mind was at a frenzy. April, Bobby, can you hear me? Where was my wife? Where's my son? I needed to help them. I couldn't move. I was helpless. Please help my wife and son. Please, please. My words fell silent as I drifted off. He's alive. His rough hand touched my neck and I woke. I could feel his cold fingers. Hon, get in the car. Return back to the gas station. Call for help. I'll stay here, the voice echoed. Wait, I choked out. My voice tattered. Where was he going? Why would he leave me?
Well, that was awful.
Gosh.
I didn't mean the book was awful. I meant what happened to him was awful.
Oh, my goodness.
That was everybody's worst
Worst
nightmare.
yeah.
I think.
The 61 car.
But losing a job.
Huh?
Losing a 1961 car.
Yeah.
that was the problem.
Yes.
Joe Conchal said, "Nice read, Steve. Very intriguing."
Oh, thank you.
And Marjorie said, "You put me right there in that car, Steve. It was terrific."
Well, Marjorie, why didn't you answer the guy?
Oh, we've got to stop him somehow. I could do this.
No, that wouldn't work.
Gosh. Joe Conchal has another question. That was very emotional, though. That was hard to hear. That was...
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid to think
Very
about why he
real.
doesn't like being around the children. But anyway.
Can kind of guess.
Yeah. So Joe Conchal says, hi, Steve. How involved is your publisher with the promoting and marketing side of your books? That's a good question.
Yeah.
They really are involved a lot. They do. So every time we're doing an event, we need to fill out a form for them. It's just a quick form letting them know about the event, where we're going to be. They do advertising for that to try to get people there to see us. They have a lot of events all over the country where they're doing shows. They're doing one up in Indianapolis where they try to create Writers Row, and they bring in 10 or 12 of their authors. So they're really good on that. Our marketing team is always looking for new events for us to appear at. They've helped me get into some bigger reading festivals, like the Fort Myers Reading Festival that happens every year in March. The reading festival over at the St. Pete Times Reading Festival in St. Petersburg in November. They're working on getting me into that. These guys are great. They do advertisements for our monthly releases. They talk about our books. They create videos for us a lot. So they're very active in all of that. They've actually assigned a publicist to me, and all the other authors I'm sure have one too that are signed with them. But they're really trying hard to promote the sales, to grow sales and promote us, to get us out there into the readers' hands. And that's really what it's all about. Finding the readers and getting people, to know who you are and about your stories.
Finding the readers and having the readers find you.
Yeah, and personally, I've been shifting my focus a little more. I'm trying to do more bookstores. They've given me a complete list of bookstores in the state of Florida, and other states, and they can help me get in. Like if I'm going to do a show in Atlanta, why not set up to do like a show the night before, an appearance or a book signing at a Barnes and Noble, or two, a day or two before the big show that I'm going up there for, because not everybody can afford to go and spend $50 to go in a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And I get that. So, and I find that I've been doing a lot more of book signings at bookstores, and a lot of these readers, they'll come in and like, I've never heard of you, but I'm willing to take a chance. Your book sounds interesting, so let's do it. And they'll pick up book one, and I'm hoping that, even if it's only half of the people that buy my book at a store like that, I'm hoping that, they'll come back and buy book two or three or continue on. So it's all about finding new readers, and my publisher helps me get into a lot of these places that I've never had an opportunity to get into before.
Would you like to share how you got involved with Four Horsemen?
Kind of an interesting story. So I met them years ago at a Comic-Con, and then it was about a year later, I got an email from the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, and she said she had an extra table at Phantasm. It was a show going on in Orlando, a 3-day show. So I was like, we have an extra table. We hate to see it go to waste, and, you're welcome to have it. So I'm like, okay. So I went over.
I think,
and we know how much those tables cost.
Gosh, yeah.
So, they didn't want.
Oh yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I found it interesting, and I told my wife at the time. I said, they've got 100 authors, and they can't get one of their own authors to do this. So Friday, I got to meet a lot of them, and the Chief Operating Officer was there, and the senior editor was there. Got to meet them, but then Saturday, later in the afternoon, one of the authors said, "Hey, we're all gathering over at Carrabba's for dinner. Why don't you join us?" I'm like, well, sure, that'd be great. So, we went up, cleaned up a little bit after the show, and we looked outside. We're like, Carrabba's is it's an easy walk. So my wife and I like to walk. So we started walking over there, and I got a text message from that author. I had a family issue at home. I can't make it. Sorry. So I'm like, okay. So we still went over. We walked in, and the Chief Operating Officer was there, and the senior editor was there, and she's like, introduced herself and stuff. And she's like, if you haven't figured it out, this is a business meeting. And so I got set up. But no, I was flattered. They said they've been stalking me. They liked what I do. Yeah, the exact word they used. We've been stalking you in a good way. But it was really great to have someone notice all the work that I put into everything. I do a lot of self-promotion online, and you try to make yourself seem larger than life online, and it was nice to be noticed. And after the end of the evening, I liked what they were pitching to me, and of course then they threw in that little monkey wrench. They said, so if you're interested in us, submit your work, and we'll see what happens. I'm like, oh, okay, but I submitted The Ghost Hunter to them. Was the first book I sent to them. I would just finish that manuscript, and they said they really enjoyed it, and they offered me a contract.
That's wonderful. Marjorie had made a comment about the readers coming up to you, and she said, treasures are often buried. It's a lucky reader who's willing to take a chance and dig.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. I mean, I recently read something, and I actually shared it on my social media sites that, you know, challenge all the readers out there. Okay, so you go out and you buy a New York Times best-selling book, and you enjoy that. I challenge you to make your next one buy an indie author's book and swap back and forth. And because indie authors we've come a long way. We really have.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh,
a lot of people
for
say the
real.
self-publishing, has created a bad rap because there are some that just throw things out there. But I think the indie publishing, we really strive for perfection, and we try for that. I want to put out a top quality product.
And that's why we like to call it indie published, not self-published. Self-published has a stigma. Indie musicians are not looked down upon. Indie movie makers are not looked down upon. They have their own festival, for goodness sakes.
Mhm.
And so indie authors deserve the same respect.
Yeah. Time for our last break. When we come back, we're going to tell everybody how to reach you and talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
So don't go away, folks.
We'll be
This novel, set against the backdrop of the English Civil War, explores love and survival amidst the chaos of war. It combines historical events with personal narratives, highlighting the impact of conflict on individuals and families. England, 1642. When bloody civil war breaks out between the king and parliament, families and communities are driven by different allegiances. Red Winter Journey is a sweeping tale of adventure and loss, sacrifice and love, with a unique and unforgettable story of a mother's love for her son at its heart. A historic journey of twists, turns, and a dash of spirited passion.
I finished reading the book a couple of days ago. It was a great read. The plot was indeed compelling, and I loved the conclusion. What I particularly enjoy in Paul's novels is his vivid recounting of historical details as to the social and cultural sides at the time. His characters are very likable and relatable.
Have you wanted to publish your story? Have you thought about self-publishing? Today is your day. 5-star Amazon review. Self-publish your ebook on Amazon for free in 2024. This ebook is available on Amazon by Becca L. Jones.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back. And I did want to mention that the Haunted Campfire Tales will be on August 15th. That's next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, because we will be going to another wedding and we'll be gone the last Thursday of the month. So that's when we're going to reveal all of our Gettysburg evidence and stuff. So it should tune in. Anyway, forgot to do that at the beginning of the show. Let me put up your website. If you'd like to reach Steve, you can reach him at his website, which is simple. It's stevealtier.com, SteveAltier. Now, Steve, are all your social media contacts and everything like that on the website?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, I'm pretty much everywhere. Social media, all the links are there. You can find me on Goodreads, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Anywhere that people are at, I'm usually got some sort of presence there.
Yeah.
Do you have a newsletter?
Yes, I do. Yeah, so if you go to my website, there's a link there to sign up for the newsletter. If you're on the site for about 20 seconds or so, it'll pop up and ask you to join the newsletter. And I strongly advise to do that because I send out one newsletter a month, the first week of the month, and it gives you an update on what I'm working on, where I'm going to be at, how to meet me, any specials or deals running. A lot of times that my publisher is running um, special, giveaways and things like that, where you can sign up and get a free book as an ARC review before it's released. So take advantage of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I, you were talking about doing book signings. I really like going to independent bookstores. I really enjoy that a lot. Plus, I want to promote independent bookstores. They're having a resurgence now, but for a while, all the big ones were, the chains were really the only thing around. But it's a much better atmosphere, I think. I just really like the little independent stores.
Well, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to the Gilded page and Type and
There you go.
That store just blew me away. I mean, you can go in there. They've got a couple of couches. They've got an area for the kids to sit down. I mean, you can pick up a book. They don't care if you sit down and read the first chapter. I mean, if that's what it takes for you to be interested in buying that book, they allow that. It was such a homey feel. I had the best time of my life there.
Yeah, that was fun. She's great. And that's what I'm talking about. I love people like that. Like right now, our the whole Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles is at an independent bookstore in Texas. April Coker, who wrote I'm gonna forget the name. The glamping. What?
Dying to Glamp.
Dying to Glamp. Oof, thank you. Got us into that one, and that's great. I would love to be able to go there, but I just love that. I remember when we first got married, we would go to these little bookstores where you could sit in a corner and read magazines or newspapers, or like you said, the first chapter of a book, and you'd meet people and talk to them about books and reading, and that's what happens at the Gilded Cage there. It's really great. Gilded Page. I said cage, and I knew it's not.
Could be a page.
Paul Rushmore Brown says, better late than never. Hi, Rob and Joan and Steve. Hi, Paul.
We just ran
your new commercial. I love it. And Joe Conjal said, totally agree, Joan. Indie bookstores are the best. Love the ones in the Charlotte area. They are. They're so fun, aren't they? And you meet like-minded people, and if you're picking up the same genre, you chat with each other and everything. And Paul says hi from sunny Sydney.
He's down under in Sydney, Australia.
And thank you about his new commercial. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, so I love doing that. More so than going to Barnes and Noble and stuff. So that's fun too.
I wanted to ask you, and we were talking about the publishing part and your interesting experience with that. How long were you writing and writing prior to this encounter with the Four Horsemen?
And marketing, how long were you? Yeah, that is funny. When you met the Four Horsemen. How much marketing, were you doing before this happened? Marketing and writing.
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a self-published author, an indie author.
Thank you.
Going back, I mean, it was like 12, 13 years now. And it's a lot of work. I mean, nobody understands. I mean, because you still have to hire an editor. You still have to hire someone for typesetting. You still have to hire illustrators for your cover, because I don't know anything about that stuff. I just want to tell it and write a story. And, you spend a fortune out of your own pocket trying to publish a book. But I wanted, and with every story that I wrote, I learned something and I continued to grow in that. And I spent so much time just marketing and pushing myself and overseeing editors and overseeing all these projects going on that I could write maybe one book every 12 to 15 to 18 months. And when I met the Four Horsemen and when they liked what I was doing, they take a lot of that burden off of you. Really, what they want me to do is write. I have to turn in 2 books a year. I do one of the middle grade books, the smaller stories, and then one of the young adult, new adult books for the older kids and adults. And they give me a lot of leeway, but they handle all of the other stuff. And they're not charging me for that. So, I mean, I'm grateful for that, but they're still a mid-level. They're not like one of the big five or anything, but they're a mid-level independent bookstore. And what really is the difference, if you had an agent and you went out and got involved with one of the big five publishing houses, they release that book, maybe they're going to print 10,000 copies. And if they don't all sell, well, that's it. That book's dead. They're not going to print anymore. Where what Four Horsemen does is they're doing the indie route where every book is print on demand. So they're not making, thousands of books and putting them in every bookstore. The bookstores have the availability to put them in there. We're trying to get more and more books in the stores, and they're getting, like now I think my book's in like 200 plus, bookstores across the country, which is great. And that's all on them doing that. But my job is, like they said, social media and writing. And they've got, grade A. I felt like I went from a high school team to a college level, almost professional team with these guys because they do everything for me. And I mean, the one thing I did have to give up was like, sometimes I'll say, well, I'm not really happy with this cover. I think we could do a little bit more with this. And they're like, we like it. And, so I mean,
my cover.
I'm not the executive anymore of what's going on, but you know what? I trust them. They're doing the research. They stay up with the trends in the marketing. And when I start looking at other, paranormal mystery books out there on the market, they resemble mine in many ways. So I mean, they're putting more into that than what I would have.
Paul says, and it never stops or gets easier, the, marketing and pushing and all that kind of stuff. And then he said, that's really great diversification that, that you're in all those different stores and stuff. That's good. Where are they based?
They are based out of, they have moved and they are in I think it's Sylvia, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
They're in your neck of the woods, Joe.
I thought you were going to say Apocalypse, Maine, or something like that.
I know. It's a very scary
title
for a publishing company, the Four Horsemen. You're like, okay.
Give us shirts, and the shirt says Four Horsemen Publication, and on the back it's got their emblem, and it says Four Horsemen Publication, bring it on the writing apocalypse.
There you go.
They're trying to change the industry.
Yeah. Well, publishing has certainly changed, hasn't it? I mean, it's so different. It really, we've had authors on from the big five that are New York Times bestsellers, and it isn't easy for them either. We just had one on the other day. Do you know how much they get royalty? I mean, they get an upfront. Okay, they get in advance. Okay, but then they only get 10%.
Oh wow! Yes.
Is that crazy or what?
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I'm getting 40.
Yeah,
but
that's great.
But it doesn't cost me anything to publish a book anymore, so that's a win for me. I can tell my story.
That would be a win for everybody. That's good. Joe Conjul says, yes, maybe I'll drop by their offices.
You should.
You should,
Yeah,
Joe.
Joe's up in Charlotte. So.
fourhorsemanpublications.com. And if they're open for submissions, submit some of your work. Absolutely. I love them. Every author I know that has works with them, they all say the same thing. I really love what they're doing for me.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Well, it looks like we're winding up to the end of our hour here.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, believe it or not. It was like... So I want to thank you for joining us. You've been... this has been very interesting. I loved your reading, and if that's just a taste of your books, whoa!
I know I said it was awful, but I didn't mean the writing.
It was awful writing.
I meant the subject matter was horrifying. It was so sad.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing when someone says, "Can you read a part of your book?" And it's like, where do I begin? You know what? Because there's a lot of scenes I want to talk about and I want to share, but without giving too much away. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just start just how it begins.
That one's powerful though. That was powerful.
Yeah, my youngest daughter is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but my youngest daughter is 24 now, and she told me, she says, those first 3 chapters just touched a nerve with me.
Yeah.
Like, I still get chills in my spine just reading it myself.
Yeah.
And it just,
You did a remarkable job.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Good job.
So, going to move you over to the side. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Don't fall out of your chair when I do this. Yep. Stay right where you're at, okay?
Thank you, Steve. He just said he loved being with us.
Thank you. We always love hanging out with you.
Yeah.
So, what else we got going on?
Haunted Campfire Tales, August 15th.
Right.
Next Thursday.
Tampa Bay Spirits.
Please tune in.
Facebook page, YouTube. And episode rewind this Saturday, 5:00 Eastern time, right here where you're watching now. And Meet the Author broadcast next Wednesday for the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles new releases coming up. So
that'll be fun. We've got a couple of comments.
Yeah, okay. Let's get those cleared off the board here.
Marjorie says, another great episode. Thanks, Rob, Joan, and Steve. We can still hear you, Steve.
Yep.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
Yes. And Paul Rushworth Brown says, Down Under interviews.
There you go. Right. All right. So I guess until next time.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. See ya.
See you.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.